Hey y'all, welcome back to Self Centered with Remy, the show where we talk about all the things I wish I knew when I was younger without sugarcoating. So think of me as your older sister who's been through it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and who's here to help you move smarter, not harder. So, on this show, we're breaking down real life lessons and practical ways to navigate life with confidence. So, get comfy and let's chat and figure this out together. So, you're out here. You're making history in your family. First lawyer, first doctor, first engineer. But nobody warns you about what it's really like. Today, we're diving into what can be the silent struggles of being the first to graduate. And the reality that sometimes a degree doesn't always give you direction. So, when I think about what it feels like to be the first of anything in my family, I think there's a lot of weight associated with that. The first, when we think of that, typically we're thinking about a pioneer, someone who's gone through uncharted territory. And even though I'm not out here like Dora the Explorer, I am still a first, meaning I'm going through something that nobody in my family can really talk me through. So, a lot of times that can be really difficult to undertake as one person. But I think that weight is balanced out by the pride that I can sense my family and my community has for me. I think that while it's inherently difficult to be the first because you don't know what you're getting yourself into, even though you may have all the confidence in your ability to do that thing, pride from your family and your community is not going to get you to the finish line. So I think that pride from your family, along with the weight of being the first and knowing that maybe you don't know the entire thing, maybe you don't know what you're doing completely, can add a bit of pressure. And I think the pressure to be successful, depending on who you are, can start at various stages of life. I know for myself, it started rather early. I I think back to when I was a kid and always remembering, my parents are immigrants and they came here so that I could have a better life, and they put so much on the line. And I think even as a child, I was putting a lot of pressure on myself, thinking about all of the external pieces, when truthfully, the only piece that matters was me. But when you're raised in a very collective environment, a lot of immigrant families can be, there's pressure to not only just do for yourself but do for everyone around you. And that's hard to take on as a child because dang, like I'm just out here just doing the things that I like to do. You all noted that I was smart, and so now every single thing I do is now for the family. And don't get me wrong, I think there's a lot of pride to be had in that. There's a lot of good things that can come from knowing that you're doing something that is going to ultimately make the lives of everyone around you better. Knowing that your parents, your family's sacrifices were not in vain, that you did something and their investment in you paid off. I think that's a really beautiful thing to think about. But I think there's also a balance that you have to strike. Balancing pride with expectation. Don't put so much pressure on yourself that you feel like you can't fail. And you see that a lot, especially as an undergrad. You'll see a lot of those pre med students who are like, I must get an A on every single exam, on every quiz, on every homework. Otherwise, I'm not going to get into med school and my parents will be disappointed in me. That's an immense amount of pressure to put on yourself as a 18, 19-year-old. while you're taking in the pride of your family, your community, everyone around you, it's still important to set the expectation for yourself as well as your family and community that there are going to be times where you're going to fail. Whether you didn't get an A on that exam, you only got a B plus. That's not the end of the world. Um, or whether it's that you have to repeat a class because you didn't do super well in it, or maybe extenuating circumstances of life just put you in a position where you had to take some time off. Whatever it is, don't put so much pressure on yourself to be successful that you feel like you can't take care of yourself as a person. I think that's when things get really insidious, and that that's not helpful to you. You can't pour from an empty cup. And I think I've talked about that idea before, but within this context, you really can't. You can't help make the lives of the people around you better if you're in a space where you can't fail, you're not taking care of yourself, and you're running yourself into the ground. Furthermore, I think the reason why a lot of students are running themselves into the ground, why they feel like they can't fail, is because they don't know what to expect. If you're a first gen college student, you have no idea what college is going to be like. And I can relate to this a lot because while my dad did go to college, he was a non traditional student. So when I got to college, I was somewhat drawing on his experience, but he didn't study engineering like I did. So I thought that the science classes were going to be just like the science classes in high school, which were fairly easy to me. And boy, was I wrong. I got into that chemistry 101 class and I felt like a fish out of water. I was fighting for my life every day. Now, we're going to take that with a grain of salt because your first year, especially in the physical sciences and engineering, there's so much focus on, are you sure this is what you want to do? The classes are essentially designed to scare you out of your major. That's why there's this idea of a weed out class. And if you don't have someone or anyone in your corner saying, hey, you need to expect these weed out classes, you need to expect that the classes are not going to come as easily as they might have come to you in middle school and high school, and you're going to have to put in a lot more work. If you don't have someone telling you that, the path can feel very lonely. Yes, you're in a class with 200 students, but none of those 200 students are going to tell you, yeah, I'm also completely lost. Everyone's just going to go about their business. And typically, when you're going to those prestigious PWIs, everyone's going to be trying to, break the curve or be ahead of the curve or above the curve or whatever it is, because no one wants to admit that it's hard. And I know as a BIPOC student, the last thing you want to do is admit that you're struggling, because now they're looking at you like, of course you're struggling. So it can be quite isolating and it can feel quite lonely. I think that's kind of the first time where you're like, dang, what do I do? How do I get myself out of this situation? I used to be so good at math and science. I got straight A's all the time. And now I'm in this college course and I really don't know what's going on. And my peers are not helpful because we're all in the same boat, but no one's admitting it. So it can feel very lonely. And we've talked about the idea of building out a community whenever you're in a new phase or stage of life. And that is so important here. So when I think back to my freshman year, I remember feeling, wow, this is rough. And I did make some friends that first semester, and we all kind of admitted to each other, like, yeah, this is not my sophomore year chemistry class or biology class. This is rough. And when I look back on it, I realized that of course, was capable. That's why I was admitted to the school. But what I was not pre warned about, everybody was expressing the utmost confidence in me, and I had confidence in myself. But I think what might have been really useful from mentors or teachers or even principals was just a fair warning that, hey, you are more than capable. You deserve to be there, but the path is going to be difficult. But just because it's difficult doesn't mean you shouldn't keep going. And the reason why I bring that up is because by the time I hit my sophomore year in my undergrad institution, people were dropping like flies. I mean, people who were there in that first semester chemistry class, gone, completely switched majors. And on on the one hand, you could argue that okay, the weed out classes were successful then. But on the other hand, I don't think that we should be weeding students out just because they don't have experience. That's inherently unfair. Just because a student is first gen and things are a little more difficult because they kind of got hit with a curveball out of the blue, that doesn't mean that they're incapable. It just means that they needed someone to say, hey, you can do this. You just need to lock in. You got to buckle down and concentrate a bit more than what you think you need to put into this. And some students are able to do that on their own. They can do that for themselves, which I think is a really helpful trait. Being able to be adaptable to different environments, but also, I think you're so young, you're 18, 19. It's unfair to expect that every college student at that time is going to be super self aware, is going to be able to do that type of introspection to keep going. So I think that mentors, professors, advisors shouldn't discourage students just because they're getting off to a rough start. I think they should encourage the students to keep going and to just focus on how they can make things better, turn things around. Now, I'm not saying that I was failing because that wasn't happening. But there are students out there who I know they just weren't doing well because they were like, this is hard. I'm trying my best. But I think the mindset also has to change. One of the key things that I learned in that first semester, first year of undergrad was that it's going to take a lot more effort for me to pick up the concepts and to be able to demonstrate that I've mastered it at the level that my professors are asking for. It's just a higher level of learning, which makes sense because it is higher education. It's not high school where things are a bit simpler. But if the students don't have that or they don't get that within the college environment, and I think that's why a lot of affinity groups are so helpful, um, because they provide a space where there are students who can gather whatever commonality it is, and they can help each other out. They can provide the support. They get provided with things like peer mentoring that can help so much in that first year or 2 years to make sure that the student that's admitted stays with it. So, if you're a first gen student, I would say, in addition to finding your community, and I guess you could really apply this to any stage of life, but if you're new to something, you just started college, it's your first semester, or you're well into your second semester, or you just started a new job, or you just started grad school and you're finding that things aren't going well, in addition to finding the community that offers the emotional, spiritual, mental support, you also need to find the people who can offer you sound advice, whether those are mentors, professors, managers, colleagues, to say, you're capable of being here. That's why you were hired. That's why you were accepted into the program. You just need to find a way in your set of life skills, find the tools that will help you succeed in this realm. And navigating through whatever stage you're at with a community that can help you spiritually, mentally, professionally, and academically will, I think, help to temper your expectations for what comes next. So I think of after I found my footing, I the one of the key things for me was joining the National Society of Black Engineers. Um, that helped me find community, and it kind of helped me gain new tools to navigate undergrad successfully. And I think it also helped to temper my expectations for what would come after graduation. So, another thing that came up for me was I studied biomedical engineering in undergrad. And if you know anything about biomedical engineering, it's a really vast field. And I would say the easiest way to break it down is into kind of two buckets. You kind of have medical technology. So think about your medical devices, your pacemakers, prosthetics. And then you have biotechnology. That has like your cellular engineering, tissue engineering, um, bioinformatics, like things like that. And so, as an undergrad, you learn a lot. You learn a little bit about all of the things that can come into biomedical engineering specifically. Other disciplines of engineering are a little bit different. So, I'm going to talk about my experience in biomedical engineering. But just because you have experience in all of these things doesn't mean that you have enough knowledge to really pick a direction. And if you're first gen, you might have demonstrated, oh, I'm really smart. Everything's really like I've gotten my degree, but I don't know what comes next. Do I want to go to grad school? Do I want to work in industry? Do I want to work for the government? Do I want to do something completely different? Because just because you got a degree in something doesn't mean that you're going to automatically work in that field. Sometimes that can bring up feelings of being lost, questioning, did I make the right choice? Did I choose the right major? And when the world is very uncertain in front of you, let's say you're finding that the job market is really tough and you've just graduated and now you're saying to yourself, well, maybe if I had chosen a different major, maybe it wouldn't be this way. That's not necessarily always the case. Maybe you just don't have enough information to choose a path that makes sense for you. And I will say this I've talked about my path forward a lot on here. And what I will say is that you're not always going to have a clear plan. Sometimes it's just going to require that you take a leap of faith. Obviously, don't just, well, it's going to require faith. It's going to require that you trust in your skills, your abilities that you've gained up until this point, and you just have to try something. So I think that's why a lot of undergrads move with the intention of just landing somewhere, which It's perfectly fine. Your first job doesn't have to be your dream job. 9 times out of 10, it's not. So just try something. If it doesn't work out, there's nothing holding you to that position. It's called at will employment for a reason. Try something else. Or maybe you find a job that you like, but then you realize, oh, actually, maybe I need to go back to school to get a graduate degree to really take me to the place that I want to go. Or maybe you find that you studied engineering, but that's not your passion. Your passion is in fashion design. There's nothing that holds you to the degree that you're in. So I think obviously one of the things that will come up is the feeling of, well, I did all of this stuff. I put myself in a significant amount of debt trying to get here. I need to make sure that I'm successful. I don't think it's worth it to put pressure on yourself to immediately be successful. Your college degree just ensures that you will be able to feed yourself. You'll be able to get a job, bring in income, house, and feed yourself. Okay, well, check. Now that you've done that, now I think after you've gotten the degree, you've navigated undergrad, now it's time for you to decide what it is that you want to do. And going back to the piece earlier about having external forces, whether that's your family or your community, that have all of this pride in the world, they're so proud of you, but they don't know what your next steps should be. None of them are engineers, so they can't tell you, oh, obviously you should apply for this job, or maybe you're best suited here. So you have to figure that out yourself. And how do you figure that out? You figure that out by trying things. You conduct several informational interviews. Um, Last time we spoke about networking, because when you graduate, how are you going to get a job? How are you going to know what's out there, know what you want to do? Networking can help you figure out that piece of, well, I have this degree. What could I possibly do? Now, that's just one person's perspective. You're going to have to gather several perspectives to help you figure out what it is that you want to do. And it's going to be difficult, but you should still do it. It's definitely worth it to keep going. You've made it this far. There's no sense in quitting now, truthfully, just from a practical standpoint. But how do you find your way without a clear plan? You gather information, you make a plan, and you plan for that plan to fail. Realistically, plan for all of your plans to fail. I wish I had known that when I graduated, because I think I started off with this idea that, oh, I'm going to graduate and then I'm going to get this really great job that pays me a lot of money. And then I'm going to buy this beautiful condo and I'm going to have this beautiful dog and I'm going to live happily ever after. And it's not that those individual things are not possible. It's just that they may not arrive to you in the order in which you think they will. So, as someone who has lived this, sometimes you graduate, you can't find a job, so you don't get that wonderful apartment and the cute dog. But you gain a lot of experience and you do a lot of networking, and through that, you get a wonderful apartment. Great. The apartment in lockdown. Then you continue networking and you actually land your dream job. So your first job is actually one that you really, really like in a field that you find super interesting. Okay, great. Now you got the second piece. But then 6 months down the line, you're like, actually, I hate this. This was not at all what I thought it was going to be. You quit that job, you find something else. Then, you know, after looking for jobs, you find that actually, I want to go back to grad school. I want to get an MBA. So you go back, you go to school, you're in grad school, you're getting your MBA, and then you go adopt a dog or a cat or whatever. And all of the pieces that you said you wanted in your plan, you got them. But maybe just not in the order that you originally thought. And that is also okay. So it's okay to not have a clear plan. If you're someone that needs a plan, make a plan and then make a plan for when your first plan fails. Be okay with being flexible in that phase after graduation. And I think something that is I think something that's okay to admit to yourself and even to others is admitting that you feel lost. Feeling like, actually, I just really don't know what to do now. You don't have to have everything figured out. Another thing we spoke about the last time, most of us are faking it till we make it. So, most of us are just pretending as if everything's all right. And then eventually it is. It's kind of like treading water. They tell you, hey, don't panic. If you panic, you're going to sink. As long as you're treading water, you're not sinking. And if you're not sinking, you're going to swim. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. That is really the point that I want to drive home today. It's not always going to be easy. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. Explore that difficult thing. And I'm not saying, don't embrace your soft girl, soft boy life. Definitely do that. But don't put so much pressure on yourself that you do nothing. It's okay to work hard at something. You spent 4 or 5 years, whatever it was, working really hard to get your degree. It's okay if you graduate and you still have to work hard. I believe that working hard never truthfully stops in life. But that's another conversation for another day. So it's okay if you don't immediately have a direction. You just have to take one step forward. And trust that the next step will come to you. So you take one step forward, you try something, you like it, you don't like it. It's all helping you gain information to inform your next decision. So there's nothing wrong with not having a clear plan and kind of faking it till you make it. And I think something else that comes up a lot when you're the first is a lot of times you can do the very impactful thing. You're the pioneer, you've climbed that mountain, you've gotten your degree, whatever it is, and afterwards you feel a little dissatisfied. So, beyond the now what phase, sometimes we don't celebrate our wins enough. Everyone else is giving us our flowers, but we're not giving ourselves our flowers. We've kind of minimized our accomplishment because we've put so much pressure on ourselves to be successful that we don't take enough time to really say, okay, I did that. I'm one of one. I'm the only one in my family to have done that to this point. I'm the first one. I did it on my own, and I'm proud of myself. How many times do we really take the time to say that? Or do we just kind of say, okay, yeah, great, thanks everyone, and then rush over to the next accomplishment? I think hustle culture has a lot to do with that. Very much, oh, I got this bag, on to the next bag. I did this thing, okay, cool. What's the next thing? Next investment, next this. When it's okay to be where your feet are and to look around you and be happy for what you have. I think a lot of times people pray, manifest, wish on a shooting star for things, and they get to that place and they're dissatisfied. They're like, oh man, is there more? I know I felt that way when I started grad school. I remember, I vividly remember the application process for grad school where I was writing my essays, my personal statements. I was sending out my CV, and I was praying and manifesting and praying and manifesting and praying some more that I would get into a grad school to get a PhD. And I remember feeling like, wow, this is something that I want so bad. And then I got to grad school and I was like, wow, I can't believe that this was something that I wanted so bad. I was almost apathetic towards it. I was kind of like, yeah, I'm in grad school. Of course I'm here. Everybody says I'm smart, so of course I got into grad school. But sometimes it's okay to stop and say, you know what? I did that. I got into a PhD program. And not just any PhD program, a PhD program in bioengineering. And really sitting back and thinking, every iteration of myself has been working towards this. Every version of myself that has prayed and manifested for this has been so excited about this moment. And I should, one, be proud of myself, but also really relish in this time that I wanted so bad. I'm currently living in an answered prayer of mine. So, really sitting back and marinating in that thought and being grateful for everything that I've gotten to experience up until this point. And as my grad school time is winding down, I'm happy, of course, to be almost done with my degree. But also, I think one of the things that I really wanted for myself this year was to express more gratitude. I think I've spent a lot of time thinking about what I expect of myself and what other people expect of me, but not enough time being grateful for the people around me, where I'm at in life. And I think expressing gratitude has helped a ton. I think I don't feel guilty for wanting more because I know that, one, I deserve it all. And two, I feel less dissatisfied because I'm so proud of myself for the journey so far, and it makes me excited for what's yet to come. I think something else that can come with being the first in your family, in addition to that guilt around wanting more and sometimes feeling dissatisfied, a lot of times you can feel disconnected from your family or even friends from when you were in high school and middle school because your experiences become so different. So, this one is definitely, this feeling is a very interesting one to dissect because as human beings, we're constantly growing, changing, evolving. we're also constantly being influenced by our physical environment. And now that we live in the age of social media, we're also constantly being influenced by our digital environment. So, all of these wonderful apps have made it such that your algorithm feeds into what you think about the world, what you think about yourself, and what you think about others. And coupling that with the fact that you're always growing and changing with different experiences around you, if you are a student, person, whoever, that is the first in your family at anything, it's very easy to become disconnected to your friends and family because you're no longer the same person that you were when you started this journey. I'm no longer the 13-year-old girl whose elementary school teachers were telling her, you could be the president one day. You are going to go far in this life. Things are very different now. I'm a 20 something year old adult in grad school, and I've had a lot of experiences that inform my perspective on life. And I think that's a really important thing to note because feeling disconnected does not mean that you're a bad person or that your family doesn't care about you anymore. I think the essence of who you are doesn't, I believe that the essence of who you are doesn't change. There is a part of me that is so inherent to who I am as a person that that fundamentally does not change from the person who grew up in Chicago to the person who lived in Boston for a little bit and to the person that I am now. There is an essence to me that is common amongst all those versions of myself. And while you may outgrow friends from different versions of your life, that's okay. I think that was one of the harder things to realize was that the things that I was really interested in at one point, I'm no longer interested in now. And so some of the friends that I held near and dear to my heart, we are no longer aligned on our journeys. And so there is a point where we diverge and I go one way and they go another way. And that doesn't mean that there's beef or anything. It just means that our journeys are different. It's a bit more difficult when you feel disconnected from your family because on a very superficial level, I think, your family, you come back from college and they're still treating you like you're in high school. You want to go out late, stay out with your friends, hang out, do whatever, like you did when you were in college. And they're treating you like you're still 14, 15. No, you got to be at the house at a certain time. I think that's one level of disconnect where you're like, no, I'm not saying that this is my house and I pay bills, but I am saying that I'm an adult who has freedom and agency so I can operate a certain way. And I have been since I've been at college, especially if you went away to college. But also, I think there comes a point where you reflect on your journey, you think about who you are and how that's changed so much, and how now you're this person in your family that's quote unquote a first. There's different responsibilities and pressures that have been added to you. It can be difficult to deal with. And then, of course, some people may look at you a kind of way and be like, oh, ever since you gone to college, you feel like you're better than us. Whoa. Whoa. That's a lot to unpack. I think it's difficult to navigate those interactions, conversations where you're saying to yourself, I don't think I'm better than you. maybe I'm just different. Maybe I just have a different way of looking at the world and seeing the people around me. The best way that I have found to navigate those interactions is to, one, remain true to yourself. I was just saying that there's an essence to myself that remains constant. Whatever that essence is for you, remain true to that. And secondly, have empathy for the people around you. As much as you are seeing changes in yourself and seeing changes in the people around you, they're seeing changes in you and they're seeing changes in themselves. And it's hard to reach an equilibrium, but that doesn't mean that you won't. You will. And you'll look up one day and be like, oh, that was just a very weird phase in my life. And now we're past it. Remain true to yourself. Yes, you may be the first, but that doesn't give you the right to now change up on the people who've loved and supported you the entire way. But that also doesn't give people the right to infringe on your boundaries. So you have to have some sort of personal code, a set of values that direct how you operate and how you move through the world, that you remain true to. And that doesn't have to be something you publicize everywhere, but it's something that has to be true to you. And I think in addition to feeling disconnected from family and friends, there's the fear of disappointing the people who believed in you, especially if you go into that now what phase and you decide, I don't want to do anything that has to do with my degree. There's a worry that, dang, everybody supported me because I was going to be the first doctor in the family. I was going to be the first this. I was going to be the first that. Your family should love you no matter what you do. But you can't live your life for other people. You have to do it for yourself. You have to live your life for you and for you alone. Whatever you do it because you want to. It's your life, so do what makes you happy. And if something doesn't make you happy, stop right away. Don't leave yourself in a situation just because you feel like this is the right thing to do. Everybody's counting on me. You can't pour from an empty cup, like I was saying earlier. But also, you're going to be terrible to be around if you're not happy. So be happy. The money, all of the things that you're looking for will come to you if you're following your passion. If you're doing something that makes you feel excited to get up in the morning. So all of the feelings and the emotional and mental toll that can come with being the first person in your family to do something can be a lot. But I think finding healthy ways to process those feelings are important. You will not perform at your best if there's something hanging over your head that's not allowing you to really be your best. You will not show up as the best person you can in your friendships, your family, your romantic relationships if your head isn't where it should be. So whether that's exercise, creative outlets, or even speaking with a mental health professional, finding a space that is your safe space that allows you to process the feelings that you're having and just kind of figure out what's next for you is critical. So, as we're kind of rounding out the conversation, I think something that's super important is to reframe success. I've said this before, but success isn't one size fits all. Just because your parents told you that you have to go to college, get a 9 to 5, make a lot of money, save it all, and become a millionaire, that doesn't necessarily make you successful. It's certainly not successful if you're miserable doing that. So there will be times where you have to redefine success for yourself. What do you want to do? What's going to make you happy? I know that I've defined and redefined again what success looks like for me. And I think with the defining and redefining of success, giving yourself grace, allowing yourself to fail at things that you try. It's okay to be bad at things at the first try. We're all learning. But that doesn't mean you have to give up right away. It's okay if things aren't going well. Failure isn't a failure until you stop trying. You tried something, you're not super happy with how it turned out. Okay, well, that gives you information about what to do next. You know you're not going to do that next. Now you have a million other things you can try. So, giving yourself grace, expecting quote unquote failures, but also allowing yourself to explore. Like we talked about before, those practical steps to finding clarity, talking to people who are further along in life than you. Of course, taking things with a grain of salt, because just like you, they're doing life for the first time. Just because they've been doing life longer than you does not mean they have all the answers. It's just another perspective that you can gain. So, gather perspectives, couple that with what you know about yourself, those core values that you've defined for yourself, and use that to make a step, make a move, if anything. And don't feel like you have to have it all figured out. It's okay to be treading water. You're not sinking, so you just have to keep going. And something that I wish someone would have said to me when I was graduating high school, graduating undergrad, and something that I am going to try to remember to say to myself when I graduate grad school is the journey isn't easy, but it's still worth taking. Your progress isn't going to be linear. Life's journey is not going to be linear. You're going to hit bumps, you're going to run into obstacles, and it's going to be difficult because you don't have a map charting your path for you. If you're the first to do something, I'm going to give you your flowers simply because you're the first. You took on a journey that wasn't easy and you didn't quit. If this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who needs to hear this. And of course, feel free to tell me about times when the path wasn't clear for you and what you did. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Self-Centered with Remy, and we'll see you next time. Bye.